Hi, Tim. I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Great to have you here.
Thank you.
My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. First up, I'd like to say thank you very much for saying yes to be interviewed today. And so my podcast talks a lot about self-worth, but I love learning from people on just about any topic under the sun. And you have basically overcome something that I think our listeners would benefit from. So, all right, if you would allow me to read a bit of introduction for our listeners, and then we can get right into business.
Sounds good.
All right. So, hey everyone, we have Timothy Lewis here with us. In the words of Timothy, he is just your average American. He barely graduated high school, then went on to have created several multi-million-dollar businesses, as well as two charitable organizations, one of which has granted over 15 million euros to open source developers. In terms of his personal life, he fell in love with an internationally regarded actress, had a beautiful child, and went through a difficult custody battle in a foreign country. He makes art, he is a musician, and he has an eclectic style. He is a father, futurist, and he is in love with life. The ups and the downs, all lessons in love. COVID and stress led him to obesity and depression. Over the last year, he hacked his health and lost up to 120 pounds. Now he is building a health tech platform to help others do the same. Wow. Welcome, Tim. Welcome.
Thank you, Nicolette.
So, before we dive right into the conversation, can you share with us what was it like growing up as a Timothy Lewis?
Well, I grew up on a farm in Ohio, and
Ohio.
it was an amazing time. I had four sisters and a lot of animals around, a lot of time to myself. So I spent a lot of time on my computer, and my computers became my best friend when I was 4 years old, and haven't left my side since. So I
Mm.
really was a child of the bulletin board systems and then what became the internet. So I always had a yearning for knowledge and was led by my parents into exploring and always never stopping to. So it was very much allowed to and supported in whatever I wanted to learn. So early on, prior to the internet, things were a little bit, people on the internet were a little bit more scarce and probably a little bit more scary. But
Yeah.
it was a fun time. So really enjoyed doing that, but really just always paved my own way, and with the belief and parental support that I could do anything that I wanted to do, and ultimately having access to the greatest resource of knowledge that humanity has ever created has really led me to believe that people can do anything. And
Mhm.
so it was a lot of fun. I grew up with a lot of confidence and appreciation from for my situation and my family. And yeah, it was an enjoyable time. Not without its struggles, though. I think I struggled in my youth. I struggled with school. I couldn't stay awake during was
Usually the smarter ones, they don't, yeah, they just don't wanna.
well,
I would say, yeah.
it,
I mean,
it's
look
it's
at you.
it's
You
tough.
achieve quite a bit.
It's fun
Hmm.
to go. I mean, and it's difficult, but hopefully, as these knowledge resources remain accessible to more, more can try to at least be encouraged by those around them to use them. I'm very much being a self-starter and making sure that you are, you never stop wanting to learn and wanting to research and being excited about learning. I think is an important part of life. And, I'm very, very thankful that I grew up in a family that encouraged that.
Thank you. So, when I was reading your introduction, there are several themes there. So I would wanna discuss with you on the health side of things first before
Yeah,
we dive into the,
please. It's my
the
favorite
personal.
conversation now.
Yes.
I would about 15 months ago, I
Uh-huh.
was over 300 pounds. So
No.
that is over 130 kilograms. I've
No.
gone through ups and downs in my life with my health, but over since COVID, when COVID hit and being sedentary, and then going through a pregnancy and having having my first daughter, it was a stressful time. And along that time, I was also operating a nonprofit that was just a lot of stress and a lot of time resource as well. And that then mixed with this custody battle that I found myself into, and building another business that has been very much of a success. Just I wasn't treating myself right, and I
Mm-hmm.
really didn't take much of my time to be thinking about longer term health consequences. Really wasn't until I started having some victory in custody battle, when I started really being able to see my daughter again, that I really took time for myself and thought to myself, who do I want to be for her?
Mm.
One of the reasons why I wanted to come in here and talk to you is I love the name and the theme of what this is, right? And thinking about your self-worth is so important. It's so valuable. Taking the time to actually have the pause and clarity of thought to be able to value yourself and appreciate yourself means so much. It is so difficult for so many. And when you're struggling and when you're going through hard times, that's when it's hardest.
Oh,
But
yes.
I'm very thankful that I had not only my family but my daughter to really be able to allow me to kind of be appreciative and think about the things that I needed. And I spent the last 15 months really just biohacking and diving deep into understanding my physiology and understanding really getting down to the basics of everything health. I mean, I took a sabbatical from work, fortunate enough to be able to do that. But it's some of the most basic things that should be taught in schools really are
Yes.
not taught in schools.
Yeah.
And so,
It's
I'm
sad.
it is sad, and I think our healthcare system isn't geared for optimizing humanity. And our
Mm-hmm.
healthcare system, especially in the U.S., and now that I've been abroad, I mean, I've traveled over 45 countries, but living and now in Europe and other regions, it's problematic everywhere, and we're not
Mm.
teaching people to be responsible for their own health. We're telling people that they can't be, that they're not this, they're not that, they're
They
not a
have no
doctor,
control.
they
Mm.
have no, but they do. And
Yes.
it starts with your knife and fork, but also in your education and your movement,
Mm.
and really
Mm-hmm.
trying to you know we need to teach better basics. We need to teach
Mm-hmm.
people that, and also the behavioral side of everything, and your purpose and the way that you feel about yourself is so connected to your health. So
Mm-hmm.
I was very excited that you had the audacity to name your podcast what you did.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Like people when first glance, it's like, is it a satirical podcast? No, but to be honest, it's the same. It's that phrase that I used to tell myself before until I pull myself out of it,
Yeah.
and then I term it. You have to read it again. Are you really worthless? Because you're not. Your soul is not worthless. The exact opposite of it. So yeah, that's how I came about with the name.
Yeah.
So yes, Tim, you mentioned a lot about your journey on the for your health and fitness. So tell us how did you how did you hack? What were the steps? The first step that you hacked, was it your health, your mental state? And then what did you do after that? Is it then you started your, choosing better food in terms of your yeah, meals?
So it's funny. There was an exact day that I recall when I really had this mental change, and I kind of refer to that as my rebirth day.
Mm.
Because this day was the first day that I had my daughter for longer than 8 hours, again by myself, and now I've got her, nearly a third of the time. But that day I was taking her out, and we were in a park, and I was walking up and down hills with her, and just out of condition, and just not able to play with her in the way that I wanted to be able to play with her. So I knew I had to do something. Luckily I have a bunch of amazing friends from all around the world that are into weird stuff. So I called some of my friends that were, I knew were super into biohacking, and the old things that would work for me in my 20s and 30s didn't seem to be working for me in my
Mm,
40s, right?
yeah.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
needed to know what else was there to do, and some of my friends had been really deep into peptides and understanding what peptides were. And I really wasn't
Right.
familiar with peptides, but I was familiar with a couple of the pharmaceutical drugs that were becoming very popular in the U.S. Ozempic,
Mm-hmm.
Wegovy, Zepbound for
Ozempic.
for weight loss.
For
And
right. For the benefit of my listeners, because mostly it's both Malaysia and the US. So can
yep,
you share with us what is Ozempic
yeah.
like?
So
I've
it
heard
is
of it.
simply a sequence of amino acids. This is
Uh-huh.
what peptides are. So peptides are precursors to larger systems in our body, like hormones and proteins.
Mm,
These peptides. I would say I am not a doctor, but I would say for me, what I classify them as somewhere in between a supplement and a pharmaceutical.
right.
So these things are in everything that we generally consume, and they then go through and they're broken down, and they become kind of the building blocks of the rest of our systems. But peptides are like a messaging component to our body. So our
Mm-hmm.
bodies produce peptides, particularly this one, the one that became so popular in weight loss, is called GLP-1. It's a glucagon-like peptide 1. It's produced in our pancreas. And at
Okay.
different times, and based on our own metabolic health, our bodies produce or are able to respond to the production of these peptides in different ways. And if we become more metabolically unhealthy, the amount of peptides that we might have produced to create an outcome when we were healthy, it changes, and we might not be able to respond to the amount of peptide that our body is producing to initiate that response. The first
Right.
commercially available peptide was insulin in
Um,
1922 or 1923. And so, we've known how interesting these things are, I think, in the scientific community for a long time, but they were very, very difficult to manufacture, synthesize, and then create a longer half-life for the use of, for, kind of a wider spread population.
mm-hmm.
There was a number of advancements in the 80s and 90s that again made these more interesting. And by the late 90s, it was really evident, I think, to a lot of people in Western medicine that there was something there. The precursor, Ozempic and Wegovy, which are made by the pharmaceutical company Novo Nordisk,
Mm-hmm.
there were precursors to this peptide. And the peptide they use in Ozempic and Wegovy is called semaglutide. And the
Mm-hmm.
precursor to semaglutide was liraglutide, and prior to that, there had been more of an experimental version in the late 90s, early 2000s. And this
Mm-hmm.
was initially, they derived this initially from a reptile in the U.S. Someone was on the search for a different sequence of this glucagon-like peptide and found this reptile that produced it in a different way. And basically, the difference was it had a longer half-life than what we produce
Right.
naturally. So, injecting these, which is really the best way for our body to adapt to them, is what people started to do. They recognized that the GLP-1 peptides, when they are present in our body, there are a few different places in our body that respond to them. One of those is our liver, and it affects the way that we process glucose. One of
Mm,
those is our intestinal tract, and it basically slows down our intestinal tract. And the other is in our hypothalamus in our brain, and we kind of have a more feeling of satiety. So we're more satiated and we feel kind of more full. But
full
when
longer.
when I started talking to my friends who were really deep into this space, it wasn't just that they were saying was amazing. There are a host of other peptides that are on their way. Whether they're
Mm-hmm.
through clinical trials or not, it's just variant on all of the different drugs. In fact, in 2003, only about 3% of all drugs that were submitted to the FDA for clinical approval were peptide related. In 2023, over 42% of medications that were submitted were peptide related.
Wow.
So this is a new kind of area for medication. that I
Mm-hmm.
think people are going to have to get or should get more comfortable with. I never thought I'd be comfortable with consistent injections of any type of medicine or anything. I'd always viewed. I have a sister who has diabetes, and I've always, I
So she
do.
takes insulin.
She takes
Mm-hmm.
insulin, and I never thought to myself, I would never be that responsible. I could never do it. Oh my gosh! But it turns out you can. Taking a little personal responsibility if it does well for you. And so in that April of last year, 2023, I was convinced that I wanted to try it after understanding what it was, after being a little less afraid, and also after understanding that this wasn't a magic pill, that this was something that I could try to augment my own body's production of
Mm-hmm.
this peptide and then see what it did. And, the first time you take it, you absolutely feel nothing. There's
Okay.
no effect. And there's not a thing. I mean, if you take too much of it, you can get a little nauseous, but there's not really anything that it does to you, and you're wondering what's going on. But then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, you might
But
if you
that's consistent daily injection.
no, it's once a week.
Oh, once a week.
Hmm.
Okay.
There's different ways to augment it. I mean, just like you do with insulin. I mean, I think that people will build different types of injection mechanisms that,
Mm,
it would be better probably. Again, I don't think it's been scientifically researched. It's definitely not under the FDA approval schedule. But
mm-hmm.
the way that I believe that this type of augmentation works, if it was easy to have a small amount that was dispensed to you kind of daily or continuously, almost like insulin, similar to an insulin pump, I would
Mm-hmm.
assume, and I hope that there will be research done on it, that might eventually work in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
I myself now, I take probably 6 to 8 different peptides a week, and I have a different varying schedule of the different things that
Wow.
this stuff does. And it's pretty incredible what it does. I mean, I went from 300 pounds, over 130 kilograms to I was down to 80 kilograms, about
What does
100.
it do to your body? Like are you like more wired to
So
go
no, it does.
work?
It's not a
Oh,
speed. It has nothing to do with. It's not like a phentermine. It's not like any sort of a speed type mechanism. It really just cuts out food noise completely, to where you're not thinking, and you don't have that tendency to, like,
right.
oh, let me grab some chips. Let me do,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then, it's amazing because I you have to be educated into the understanding that
Yeah.
you need to change your nutrition, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
all comes down to the fact that, you know, we as humanity have mass produced and mass manufactured bad sources of food, to
That's
try
right.
to overcome,
Shortages.
yeah, shortages, right? And the food is just not good for us. Then most of it shouldn't be classified as food. You walk into your grocery store, if something's been sitting on the shelf for 4 weeks, you shouldn't eat it. It doesn't matter what it
Mm,
is. And
yeah.
myself growing up in the Midwest of America, in the 80s, I mean, we were, some of the first generations of people that were served this large manufactured food sources.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the habits that then you pick up after, years after 20, 10, 20, 30 years of eating like this, it changes your mentality. It changes the way
Yeah.
that you look at food, why you need food. It changes your understanding
Yeah.
of why you need food, and it really it becomes an addiction. There's no doubt that most people, I think, are food addicts and don't
Mm-hmm.
understand properly how to consume food in the way that we should consume food. But the medication, this peptide, allows you to have that clearance of thought, the momentary ability to think about really what you're eating. So I really do believe medications like this need to be paired with education, need to be paired
Mm-hmm.
with an understanding. But it all doesn't come in a week. It doesn't come in a month. It takes time to reprogram how we think about what we're consuming, and then further how we think about how we're moving and what we need to do to optimize the rest of our surrounding health. Because
Mm-hmm.
ultimately the goal should be not just being thinner or being skinny. It needs to be being metabolically healthy. To be
Yeah.
metabolically healthy, your your gut and the microbiome of your gut really initiates so many of our different feelings and the different hormones that control our feelings and our
Mm,
happiness. And so,
mhm.
starting and understanding, that we need to really treat our gut the right way is an important way to kind of break us out of the depressive thoughts and the depression and depression. And so, really being of healthy body and mind, it's one big circle, making sure that we are able to do that. And I think that medications like this can help break that addiction. Food addiction is one of the hardest addictions to break. It's the only addiction that you are forced to do to
To
be able to
live.
live, right?
Exactly.
So I have, and most people just are on autopilot when it comes to
Yeah.
eating. And, I don't think of this as something, it's not a cheat code. It's not a mechanism to where, like you have to work hard. You are just augmenting your own body's production, but the rest is up to you. And so, I
Mm.
hope to help inspire and let people know, and ideally, the globally, in the U.S. and globally, people will start to look at this. This is, I think, the world's only chance of what could be a complete healthcare system collapse unless we get obesity under control. And
Yeah.
I, being someone who has dealt with obesity my whole life, I have so much sympathy and compassion for people who struggle with weight loss. And
Struggling. Hmm.
I don't, and again, I don't at all blame, and I don't at all point fingers. I know the struggles I've seen. I know what it's done, and but the reality is, we need to use the tools to overcome, and then we need to make better choices, and we need to demand more and better out of the commercially available food and food sources, especially the way that they're advertised to kids, and especially the way that
Yeah.
we are feeding them to our children.
Hmm. Hmm. So, who are your who's your target audience?
It's funny right now. And I'll let you know a little bit about the company. In my latest iteration, every time when I get excited about something, I go and I just dive in, and I also look
That's
for
okay.
commercial opportunities, right? And when I decided, when I started getting this medication myself, it's very,
Hmm.
there are many different ways to get it. There's traditional through the traditional pharma route, from prescription through to the FDA approved manufacturers, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. That is a very expensive route, and most likely people's insurance is not going to cover it. This is some
Right.
upwards of $1,200 or $1,300 a month to receive that prescription, and that's just cost prohibitive for
Wow.
99%,
That's a
99.9% of
month's supply.
a month supply. It's
1,200.
unbelievable. It's
Oh,
unbelievable. And
okay.
these things are manufacturing is not difficult on this. And so the alternatives, people were then, because the medication became so popular, it started being able to be prescribed via compound pharmacies. And this is a special thing in the U.S. when you have medications that the manufacturers aren't able to meet the supply. Then these compound pharmacies can make a similar medication without necessarily the FDA, without the FDA blessing, but with the State Board of Pharma's validate the quality of some of these. And this is kind of you aren't necessarily aware of what you're getting. And, when you look at generic medications and when you look at compound pharmaceuticals, there are great players in the business, and then there are really poor players in the business internationally. And so,
Mm.
trying to understand that was something new for me. And then also people get this via research outlets, and sometimes people get this on the black market. People were literally buying this lyophilized substance and then injecting themselves with this from Alibaba, right? Which I
Whoa.
do not suggest. Right? Yeah,
No, no,
that is
no.
not. Don't
We're
inject
not
yourself with
soliciting
anything you
anything
buy.
here. Yeah.
Right, right. And so, when I started thinking about how I was going to get it, because my insurance wasn't going to cover it, and then I initially started with research medication, which worked well from some sources and not from others. Then I went the compound route, and again worked well from some sources and not from others. And I couldn't believe that, because this is something that was prescribed, and I didn't understand how, if I was getting a prescription for something, why wasn't it working? And I just could tell. And I started, how is this tested for purity? How can I validate? And so
Exactly.
I
That
understand that
was my
these,
next question.
yeah, there are these there are these tests called HPLC tests that they do that they can
Mm-hmm.
validate the purity of a medication. And
Okay.
in this, the medication can be sent away to a third-party lab, tested for purity. And so I started doing that with everything that I was getting. I started like understanding what what you know what was good and what wasn't. And I started really
Mm-hmm.
thinking about um, you know trying to understand how this process could be better. I lived about a decade in California, and I helped a friend build one of the largest cannabis supply businesses in California.
No way. Is it Len
And
May?
what's that? No,
I
everybody's
interviewed
got a
one
friend.
person.
Everybody's got a
Yeah.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's
It
got
was a
friend.
great
I know a
industry.
guy.
Yeah. It is.
Okay.
Cannabis was rad, but they pushed everybody into what was called seed to sale
Mm,
manufacturing, which basically gave the regulators of UN to make sure that the cannabis was free of pesticides and any other contaminants, and all the way
mm-hmm.
from the initial seed through processing and then ultimately to the end sale, so the consumer could validate the test process all along and verify that what they were getting was good. And this is not done by any means for generic medications or compound pharmaceutical medication. And I couldn't believe that, right? And so, when I started talking to, I talked to a couple friends of mine that one of them is an incredible user experience designer. I was thinking about, hey, how do we create a platform that might be both educational and then able to prescribe and then deliver medication? And he introduced me to a friend of his that ran all testing and tracing for the NHS during COVID. So
Mm,
he was basically a product and operations guy who found himself working for Winston Churchill's grandson, and at a point in his career prior to COVID, during during the initial COVID phase, Winston Churchill's grandson propelled him into the front of running all test and trace for the NHS. And so we started all talking, and
mm-hmm.
I kind of explained to them. They weren't as familiar with the U.S. medical system,
Yeah.
but I started talking to them about what the opportunity might be. And then, because of the popularity of these medications and the fact that they are what are called sterile medications, so it adds another complication to the
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing or the compound process. We recognize that because they were on the shortages list, we might be able to might have a chance to be able to do this in the right way and create a new quality assurance process and procedure that we could be very efficient at, and try to make sure that we could get prices and costs to an effective rate and continue to try to
Mm-hmm.
drive those down, but really
Yeah.
try to drive the education alongside with it, because people are not yet aware of how amazing this stuff is for many people. And I think that this is potentially the type of medication that will really change fitness, change health, change the way we look at food, and really change then the mood and attitude and the way that people reflect life. That's one of the benefits of this. It's a heck of a thing. The first month that I used the medication, I lost probably 12 pounds to 12 to 15 pounds, and
Wow.
that was dramatic enough. And I really, at that point, I wasn't doing anything different. I was
Were
just,
you running? Were you
not at all. I mean, I didn't
okay?
really even start walking or moving until the end of that month, when I realized, because ultimately I hadn't been educated yet on what it was, and I
Mm-hmm.
was just eating less. And yes, if you eat less, you might have some results, but 6 months of eating substantially low, food is also will put you into a very bad space, right? And
Yes.
so
Yes.
this medication has been described as anorexia in a shot. And if it's used like that, you're going to have a very bad time,
Mm,
because it is going to
and that
cause
is
other
true.
complications that
Mm,
are very, very difficult. Myself, luckily, I had the frame of mind to understand, and kind of I had been athletic in my youth, and I had been athletic at different points of my life, and I've always been interested in nutrition, but I took the time to really go dive into what I should be doing, what I need to be eating, and starting to think about it in that way. And I started in that second month is when I started to do some of the movement basics, like understanding steps matter in your life. Walking is important. Getting out of my house and trying to do at least 8 to 12,000 steps a day was what I originally started to do. And I changed some of my habits. I went out, I didn't have a home gym at all when I started. Now I've got a massive home gym because I love it. But one of my first purchases was buying a treadmill, and I put it in front of a TV. So instead of sitting there just watching, I'm a big sports fan. I love American football. And as we were getting closer to football season, I knew instead of just sitting down on the couch, I should be walking and watching football. It was great. So I made these little incremental changes, these 1% daily changes that ultimately add up to a lot. And so I'm very, very thankful that I've begun this. I know, now I'm absolutely fanatical about all things health, and look forward to the rest of life and being as healthy as I possibly can be. And so it was a great change in my outlook.
You look happier though. I mean,
I am.
compared to because I saw the pictures in Podmatch. You gave one picture of yours back in 2020, I think.
2020,
And
that
then
was
compared to
2023. That was literally
right.
2023.
Oh, that was
That's a year
2023.
ago.
Okay. It was last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And you definitely look.
Thank you. I mean, it's one of those things that from a psychology standpoint, it's another thing that I'm interested in letting people know. Those that have battled with obesity or battled with any, I think many health issues that are otherwise externally recognizable. There is a way that you are treated, a way that you are looked at. The feelings of being an outsider or not being included necessarily, or feeling there's some sorts of shame sometimes that go on, and some sorts of the reason I just don't have many photos at all of myself in the last 4 years, because I would never want to take a photo of myself or have a photo taken of myself, right? And you're kind of hiding from who you are, though when you're looking in the mirror, you probably do recognize, your beauty. You probably do see that the healthiest version of yourself. But, it's funny, it's disguised by, some other
societal conditioning,
right? And for
judgments,
right. And for me, the change then in how people treat you, it's radical and it's different. And it's not always great, and I recognize this as a kid. I had gone through in my grade school years, my later grade school years, I had broken my arm for 2 summers in a row. And during that time, I was sedentary, and I was just sitting around, on my computer and playing Nintendo. And ultimately, people just don't treat you great, and that's not fun, and it's not right. And I wish that wasn't the case in society, but it is. And we have to, recognize that, and also forgive people that they know not what they do, and the way that it makes us feel, the way that it makes others feel. But, not for the reasons, I think, of the benefits that come with being kind of treated in a different way, which is there are many. It is very, very nice to be smiled at, to have people saying hi, to get more messages on social media platforms, on dating platforms. But there's the benefits of your own internal feelings and the internal health. That is the strongest benefit. And, you should still understand and measure that people are going to have their own opinions, thoughts, and feelings and perception. But, when you are healthy and really trying to be truly healthy metabolically, and the way that you feel, it's changed. And
it
feels great.
exudes outwardly, right? Like people can feel, because everything is energy.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Wow, thank you for that, Timothy. I mean, I love the explanation. So, what is your trajectory? What, in your opinion, what will it look like next couple of years for this peptide?
Well, I think that 40% of the United States of America will be taking some form of peptides within the next 7 to 10 years. And when you look at
Mm-hmm.
American, I mean, this is where I have most stats on because this is where we're targeting. In
Right.
America, there's 42% of Americans are obese. Another 30.
42%.
Mhm.
Wow.
We're not
Okay.
number one in the world on that fact. We're
Huh.
number one in many
Who's
things.
number one?
I think it's
I haven't
Mexico.
checked the statistics.
I think it's
Mexico.
Mexico. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But many other places, and it's not just a U.S. problem, right? So
Oh, yeah.
42%,
Malaysia
42%
too.
obese, 37% overweight, right?
Oh,
So we're
okay.
at like 79%, almost 80% of our population that is out
Hmm.
of what is considered your healthy norm. Now, I don't
Uh-huh.
think that BMI is a great number for
Indicator. Yeah.
complete, but it's
Mm-hmm.
a partial indicator, right? And you really need to understand your metabolic health to understand your true the true health of your internal system, which is what's important. There are metabolically healthy obese, very very rarely, but it's true. But there are many cases of metabolically unhealthy non-obese. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone really has to
Yes.
understand.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
has to see what they're doing in the inside and be thinking about what it is. And where I see this industry going, like I hope this year with this new platform. So we have the larger platform we call Maion, MAION, and we use a lot of AI tools to help people understand their own patient-reported information. So, understanding how to do things on your scale, understanding how to track different measurements. It's really not just your scale; it's the other measurements that are important. Subvisceral fat, visceral fat, muscle rates. Those things are really important for everyone to track and to know about, not just get fixated on just your
The
weight.
the
That
number.
doesn't,
Yeah,
yeah,
on the scale. Yeah.
that's not as important. But to try to help you gradually understand consistent testing, measuring to manage, and then also being able to prescribe and then motivate you to make sure that you're on your path. So we've created a journey platform that helps people try to really get into that motivation and
Mm-hmm.
understand what it is that they need to do to think about what their purpose is, to think about what they need to do to, drive forward with this, which is a long progress and process that they need to, combine movement with dietary change, with behavioral change, and to do that effectively, you really have to drive that through purpose and you really have to motivate into what that is. So
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to create a digital platform around that that is modern. Most of the healthcare systems are sterile and boring.
Pretty
You know,
backward.
yeah, have been not they're we look at Facebook or Instagram and we get the serotonin dips every time we get a new like or a comment, but we don't get any of that from medical, right? And it's all
Mm.
very we've been
Oh, that's a
removed
good
from
way
the
to look at it.
process,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
we need to have that community back into the process, and I'm looking forward to rolling out our mobile platform. We just launched with the prescription services and delivery services this last week. So we've got our first patients that have been rolling in, which has been fantastic. We've got a great telehealth partner and network of compound pharmaceutical organizations that will follow our quality assurance platform, so our QA platform. So where I hope to be in the next few years is treating hundreds of thousands and then millions of people into a what I call a praise health system. So it's patient-reported artificial intelligence system, to where they can start understanding that they can be in control and that they can be educated, and they should look to medical professionals and their community for guidance, but ultimately it's your own
Taking
responsibility.
charge of your own health,
Yeah.
like having it, I mean, how do I say this? A holistic view of your health, of yourself, and yeah, having basically just taking charge. Like you have control. Work with your doctors, work with people like yourself, and then just have that accountability,
Yeah,
where you
have the belief in yourself, right? Like also,
exactly.
what one of the things that we're doing in our platform is having them journal things like purpose, having them journal things like and go through things like affirmations, right? Like many people are not have not tuned in, I think, to the positive mindset and understanding, that affirmations and things of, being positive attracts other positivity. And so it's important. I think it's important for us, and especially in this health journey, to try to, create a system that maybe can, introduce that in a very easy way, in a very functional way, in a very efficient way, in a way that is not going to be,
Intuitive
yeah,
and yeah.
yeah. So that's what we're working on, and hopefully, if my goal now, I've kind of set this goal to where I'd like to have several million patients over the next 5 to 7 years, and then beyond then, likely and hopefully get back. I love living outside of the U.S. has for this last period of time, has kind of maybe taught me how much I love the U.S. Has
Oh, really?
really, uh,
I've heard opposite reactions from
you,
people who
you know
actually moved outside of US and then just like, oh,
you
this
know
is
you
not
know
bad.
it's I think that we're going to go through a lot of geopolitical change during the next decade or two.
Yeah.
And I think that the U.S., due to many agreements that were set upon in the 40s and 50s, has spent a lot of time making sure global trade was very open and free. But we did that through, police force, military force, as per the agreements that we had signed. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes that those we stretched beyond maybe what the people had understood or perhaps wanted. I think that we might go through a period of time and change where we might redact some of that. And I think that people will uh, likely remember, hey, maybe it is a good idea to have the U.S. politics doing things. I think U.S. does stand for democracy. I know we have some political hardships of ourselves to overcome, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of Americans, we all need to set aside our differences in what we're thinking about, because I think the goal and outcome should be the same. I'm a big fan of freedom, and hopefully, conscious capitalism, maybe a different flavor of being able to motivate ambition to be able to create more effectively. And so, living outside of the U.S., especially being here in Berlin, Germany, I see a lot of remnants of socialism and socialist system that I don't think are progressive. I don't think are propelling the society here forward. And being in tune, I've had founded a hedge fund, and so I have my own view on macroeconomics, and I think that some of the economic hardships in Europe over the next decade are going to be great.
Worsen.
So when I look at things that I enjoy, and again, this is me selfishly talking. I mean, I love technology, and I really
Mm-hmm.
do. We're on this. We've been on this movement, and now it's getting an exponential movement of technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what used to be a 4-year leap for humanity is going to be a 1 week leap. And, what used to be something that would happen in a year's time will happen in an hour. And these are the changes that some people will be able to understand and be ready for, and some people just won't. And that's not a
Yeah.
it's just the way that it is. Not everyone is as in tune to that sort of thing. And I do believe that these technologies are just going to radically change people, as we are
Whether
still
they like it or
evolving.
not.
Yeah, we're still evolving, right? So the
Yeah.
integration's coming.
Yeah. I love that. So talk to us. What's the difference? What are the differences between living in Berlin, Los Angeles, and Puerto Rico?
Okay, so I love Puerto Rico, and I expect to be back there. This year, I've been involved. I had a court case that I'm involved in there. So
Right.
again, it's this stressful situation that's led me in here, taking care of my custody situation, right? So it was
So it's interlinked to the question on custody and fatherhood.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and so I'd kind of gone back there to kind of take some time away from here, and then now I'm kind of flipped some of that. And Puerto Rico is amazing. I'll speak about Puerto Rico first. Puerto Rico's got amazing people, amazing culture. I think that the opportunity that is there for for Americans and others. There is a tax opportunity there that exists, and that's really to draw people back in and to create new economic ability in the region. I think this is something that's going to happen in many areas of the world, right? So we have theories of different, population gaps that we might suffer from globally, right? So if you look at China right now, China is going to definitely face a population issue.
Yeah.
And so you look at some of the decisions that they made, and you look at globally the number of children that are being produced. We are
Yeah.
very, very low on what this is supposed to be or what we thought it was going to be. So we have infrastructure that might not support the elderly if we don't have new youth coming in to
Yeah.
do that.
To
And
do that.
so we have, island territories in places like Puerto Rico who have always been ahead of the curve. I mean, they were offering different tax credits for pharmaceuticals in the 80s and 90s that propelled them. They've been referred to as the model that Singapore used for their economic restructuring came
Right.
from Puerto Rico.
No.
Right. Yeah. So Puerto Rico has been about that life for a long time, and has some amazing people, but it's also has some of the other issues that you're going to have with an island political system. There's corruption, and there's haves, there's have-nots, there's things that they don't have. There's old laws that they have that are in place that are not great for the economy, and the agreements. Some of the agreements that they have in shipping are not great for the economy. But beautiful place and beautiful people and very vibrant, very vibrant. And I'm a musician, so I love music, and that is one of the best places for music in the world, hands down. So really do love Puerto Rico, and the sun, you can't beat the sun out there, right? And it's great to
Yeah.
be.
I can imagine.
I love the ocean, so it's a great place. I'll say something about LA. I miss LA. LA is incredible. Things change, but I can't imagine myself being back in California, and the coastline of California is magic. I mean, it is just an incredible space for incredible people, and just the way that people socialize, the way that people communicate with each other and support each other is just different than anywhere I've ever been. And there's just so much opportunity there. And so I really do absolutely love California and what it is. It's not without its faults, but it is just absolutely an incredible place. I love the people there, and just amazing collection of, artists and creatives and, free thinkers. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful, driven place. Berlin, I do love many aspects of Berlin. There are things that I don't love. So I dove really deep into testing, all sorts of testing this last year, right? One of the
I would
obvious
reckon so.
easiest tests is genetic tests, right? So I've done some of the genetic testing, and I'm mostly of German heritage, and I knew that as a kid growing up. So I'd always had some pride in what that heritage was. But being here, I think that the society is kind of at an impasse, and doesn't really, at least in Berlin. I know it's different in Frankfurt and in Munich, but there's just not as large of a sense of ambition here, and people also just don't. They're not very friendly, and I think that's because
I think I get what you mean.
yeah, I think it's because of we're only 34 years removed from the toppling of the wall, right? So the generation the eldest generation here, or the elder generation here, they're very reserved. You don't know who's going to turn you in. You don't know who's going to sell you out. You had this moment to where you were trapped, and you don't talk, don't look at anybody. Hide yourself. Blend in, right? And so that's just different. It's different than it was, in California. You walk down the street and people are,
hey, how are you
how's
doing?
it going? How's your day today? What's going on?
Exactly.
And I just like that. I like that in life, and I wish that people would smile more here. I think it makes a difference. But I have my daughter and her sister, my non-biological daughter, here that I just absolutely love, and I'm here to make sure that they're, educated, happy, and they maybe break the cycle of unhappiness out here in Berlin, and we can do things a little bit differently. But it's been a great place to be as an artist. There are a lot of community resources here for producing music and being a part of events. So that has been nice. But I miss the sun and I miss the ocean. That's for sure.
The sun is in LA and the ocean in Puerto Rico. But
Both.
then both
LA's got the
both,
sun.
right?
LA's
Yeah.
got the ocean too.
And yeah, fun fact, I'm actually making my way to LA for the first time in September. So
Well,
what are your tips for me?
well, there are a lot. I mean, the food's gonna be great. Go to Venice Beach. Go to Venice. Go to Abbot Kinney
Okay.
Street. Abbot Kinney
Okay.
Street's super cool. Go to some of the restaurants. Some of the fresh restaurants on Abbot Kinney are super cool. There's a lot of really great places to eat in LA. LA is a cheeseburger town, though. By the way,
Oh,
if
is
you are,
it?
oh
Okay.
my gosh,
Oh my
like
God. I don't know about that. Oh, cheeseburger. Okay.
no, they've got some of the best burgers in the
We just
world.
spoke about that, Timothy. What goes
Listen,
in our
I don't think that people need to give up cheeseburgers. I do not.
Okay.
I think
Oh,
they
wow.
need to know where they're getting. Now, cheeseburgers every day, cheeseburgers every week. Yes, you shouldn't be doing that, right?
Wow, look at you being so defensive. Okay, let's
Right.
hear
I'm
this
gonna I'm
out.
gonna
Okay.
defend my poor health truth. I'll
Yeah.
tell you, red meat is good. I believe is good for you. Red meat, it can be amazing for you, and some of the ways that people get kind of their macros in their diet, that's what's not right, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
focusing on protein, you should be
Right.
doing, right? Like the World Health Organization numbers that they tell people for their macros, I just think are just wrong and outdated. When you
Mm-hmm.
think about the types of the amount of protein that you need to fit your lifestyle, protein should be what you primarily focus on, in my belief, in your diet. And having more red meat is I think a healthy part of that. Now what you are putting on top of that, how it's made, the sugars that it's with, the amount of the food that you eat, all of those, the amount of work and effort, your energy flux when you're eating that,
Right.
the
When
things
you're
that you
eating
do.
that or after you're eating that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is super important.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be moving. You need to be doing things, especially after you're going to go through and do something like that. But I by no means have given up cheeseburgers. Right? I just don't eat 2 or 3 of them a day.
A
Right? Like
day. Okay.
it's something different. I make a lot of my own food now. Like I got really into and doing it in an efficient way. Like not thinking I've got no time. I know no one has any time. But prioritizing the way that you make meals, prioritizing, making bulk food, meal
Right.
prepping, and then
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing, some of the things that you can do to make food more efficiently, is one of the things that I focused on. I do not just randomly order food from, Uber Eats or, any of the, the meal plan, the meal delivery services anymore. That I completely cut out of my life. And so, just thinking about the food sources and what they are, but, it is about, oftentimes food is about, it is about convenience, and oftentimes food is also about community, right? So, you should understand how to make the foods that are good more convenient, and you should not negate the community that's involved around food. You just need to learn how to make healthier choices consistently. But when thinking about foods, that are going to be quote unquote bad for you, they don't have to be bad. It's just the amount that you're taking. But again, if you're addicted, if you have addictions, one burger leads to 10 burgers leads to crying, and it's a problem. But there are ways to kind of get around that and work on your mentality and become mentally stronger to be able to overcome that.
Okay. So cheeseburger in LA. The
There's a place
beach.
called Father's Office that's really,
Father's
really
office.
good. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The beach, at the
The
beach for
beach.
sure. Yeah. And then
Okay.
going to Hollywood, checking Hollywood out. Go to West Hollywood. I'm not sure what you're
Mm,
into, but great shopping in West Hollywood and
okay.
seeing what's going on there. Then there is I think it's Universal Studios, which is out there.
Oh, definitely. That's
Yeah,
number
yeah,
two. on my
Yeah,
list.
you've
So
got the Harry Potter exhibit there, and you
yes,
also have
yes.
I think the new Super Mario Brothers stuff is
Oh,
out there too.
cool.
So would definitely
Yay.
plan a big day for that. And if you can splurge
Uh-huh.
and get the line pass, okay, it's an
Oh,
expensive thing.
the
Express,
express
yeah, you
pass.
have to, it is what it is, and it's a costly thing. But if you're
Right,
taking the time to go do it, and it's experience that you won't have that often in your life, try to
right.
make sure that you can do that because it really does mean the difference between, you know, 4 rides
When
every two
you're,
hours, 5 rides every 2 hours versus 1 ride every 2 hours.
gosh, okay, okay. Well, thank you. Because I was debating whether I should get
Let's end that debate
the
right now.
yeah, yeah. I think you just ended it. So
So
I think, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Wow, thank you, Tim. So, Tim, what is your heart's greatest wish?
I mean, really would just revolve around my children right now, making sure that they're happy and healthy, and that they will continue to be, happy and healthy, and that I can, that I can live up to. I think the life and the way that I am thankful and the way that I view my parents. I'm hopeful that my children can view me in that same way. Beyond that, those are sort of selfish reasons, right? The other things, I really do wish that this next radical change that we're going to have in history includes, it comes without as much violence as previous times in history came with. I hope that there's, more access to freedom of free information, that people are able to use resources to be able to, create larger parts of societies that are more inclusive for more people. And I would really wish that, we were doing a better job at, you know, uh, creating happiness within all, to where everyone in all their differences could understand that they are, all part of the same magic, and they have that same value and worth as everyone else, that we're all this connected being, and that everyone could really kind of internalize how important they are to that greater structure, and that
Mm-hmm.
they could be viewed as, the same amount of, love that they deserve. There was I went on for many years. I had been on a spiritual journey to try to understand, different things about myself. And, one of the things that has always stuck with me in that spirituality is, the thought of, when you look into the eyes of another, that you're staring into the eyes of God, and God is staring back at you. And
Oh,
so that is something
yes.
that, if you're able to internalize that you are part of that particle, part of that being, let
Mm-hmm.
that fill you with love and appreciation, and being content and happy. So my goal is, or my hope and my wish would be, that more people can be exposed to that belief in love, and can internalize that.
And have that level of understanding that when you see others, you're basically seeing yourself, and it's just we're in this meat suit, and
Yep, yep,
that's just it.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Your meat bag.
Yeah, meat bag. So, do you have a mantra that you live by?
I wouldn't say, well, Ho'oponopono.
Hope on.
There's I just try to be thankful more often in my life these days. I try to take the time. I try to be appreciative. It's just, for me, being thankful and taking the moments, even especially when times are hard. The battles and struggles that I go through are, pale in comparison to those that many others do. Maybe most others do. And it's been like that throughout time. So, I'd really just try to be thankful, for everything that I have, everything that I am, and everything that I'm not. It's something that I'm really, really thankful for. And so, I try now to, rather than having one saying phrase or mantra, I just try to surround myself with that feeling of thankfulness, and I try to just, center myself at peace daily with, that appreciation. And so that's what I kind of choose for my tip of the spear these days.
I love that. Is there anything that keeps you up at night, or do you sleep well?
That's one thing that I really am one of the most thankful for. I sleep like a baby. And so well, I guess babies don't always sleep that well, so that phrase may be not the best phrase. But I do sleep very deeply, and I've now I'm so into testing, measuring,
Like
monitoring
testing?
my sleep.
What?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like the
Yeah. Oh,
beds,
yeah.
the rings, the watches,
Yeah.
all the stuff. But I really do sleep well, and even in times of trouble, that's one of the things that I think was taught to me early on. I was very encouraged to daydream, and dream at night, and so
Wow.
this is one of the things that as a kid I was trying to think about how I could project myself into my dreams, how I could really like remember, write, and try to journal my dreams. And so it is one, it's at least one, it's about 1/3 of your life, right? You might as well enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
And it can be the most exciting part of your life. So figure out how to
Yeah.
navigate it, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, it's too true. Yeah.
it's one of the most freeing times, freeing places. And one of the things that I'm very, very thankful for, and that I always try to prioritize, is that side of myself, and being able to sleep. So I've been sleeping really, really well. Hope to get. There's always room for improvement, so I'll always try to sleep better. But I think I'm doing pretty good so far.
I love that. You just reminded me that, yeah, it's 1/3 of my life, so might as well just make it a full use of it and make it an enjoyable one. Create my ritual at night. Like I am guilty of not sticking on the timing. Like sometimes 12, sometimes 1, sometimes 10, sometimes
Yeah,
9. So
yeah. I mean, the timing is so important, and all of us
yeah,
have that, right? So don't try not to
exactly.
ever beat yourself up, but always just be conscious and aware that there can be
Mm-hmm.
a better way. But finding rituals, right? Like one of the things that really became something that really helped me out was creating routines, creating habits, and creating habits that were easier to be able to follow, right? So really getting
Right.
into habits, and creating routines. I started writing out early in the transformation. I started writing out a morning routine, and I literally wrote steps for myself, from the most basic things of brushing my teeth and washing my face, down through meditation, walking, and taking supplements, medication, and an ice bath, doing different things, whatever it is. But detail them. Don't beat yourself up if you don't hit it every day. But look at that.
Yeah.
In the morning, the first thing I'd always do is I'd pick up my clipboard, look at my morning routine, and be like, okay, let me get on it.
Yeah.
Because I would feel so accomplished if I could check off the boxes and make sure that they're
Mm-hmm.
done. For me
Mm-hmm.
now as a technologist, life is also very much about how much can I automate? How much
Yeah.
can I get machines to do what I would normally have otherwise had to spend minutes doing? So I have these shortcuts and routines that I automate every morning and every evening to kick off my habitual reminders, and orchestrate the things that are around me, to make sure that it's easier for me to really set into that mood, setting the lighting, setting automation on setting lighting at times, setting deep sleep tones, binaural audio tones at a certain
Yeah.
time at night, to where I know I'm supposed to be sleeping, so I should be in a deep sleep, and so that should be helping me. I try to do things, and so to do that, you have to be able to write your own routine. And so the way that I started with it was just a clipboard and a piece of paper, and really just started to drill into what does the first hour of my day look like? What does it look like to where I'm going to be thankful and happy, and know that I
Oh,
got a good stuff,
yeah.
amount of good stuff done? Instead of
Mm-hmm.
thinking about taking the thought out of what is important, instead of thinking about it, being able to just go back to, okay, I've got 3 minutes to do this. Go. Done.
Mm-hmm.
Check. Next. Being able to follow that made it a little bit easier, because then I was just on autopilot. And even if I was not necessarily motivated that day, I knew just to get the check mark done and get to the next one. So, as you're creating a nighttime routine, maybe think about some of the things. Like for me, when I was obese, I snored really bad. I had sleep, elements of sleep apnea, and I would have other problems with my sleeping that were becoming problematic, respiratory problems. And so, I started thinking about and researching what was going to be healthy for me there. And I looked up, yes, a couple of different supplements like magnesium and L-theanine and different things that were going to be helpful. But what did I need to do aside from that? And breathing exercises really helped. I thought about breathing exercises. So I started doing a breathing exercise before I went to sleep. And then small things like, nose strips to expand the ability for my nose to take in breath was important. And then I also use mouth taping. Mouth taping can be done really, really cheap. So
Right.
parts of my evening routine, which, oftentimes starts with changing my lighting, making sure that my lighting is down, really low a little bit earlier on, making sure that I've got music queued up that's going to be, music that I want to get to sleep to. And then once that cues, I know I'm supposed to go and do my bathroom routine for my, face washing and teeth brushing and all the things that I'm supposed to do. By the time that I put my mouth strip on, I'm ready to go.
You're
What else am I gonna do? What else am I gonna do? Like, you call me after my mouth strip's on. I'm sorry. I'm talking to you
I'm
tomorrow.
sorry.
Right.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, thank you. I mean, I do some of them, but sporadically. And
Yeah.
yeah. And I
Write it
just have to
down.
be kind to myself, and that, okay, it's okay if you don't hit all of
Yep.
the target, Nicolette, today,
Yeah.
start again tomorrow,
Yeah.
and then be better from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Tim. If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Quote.
Mm-hmm.
Quotes. No. Quotes. Create a quote. Let's think about creating a quote here on the spot. I
I'm
think that
sorry,
I know
everybody. Like, we're guessing. Like, you ask simple questions, huh?
yeah, no,
I ca-
it's okay. But maybe that's just it. It's okay. That's the quote. It's okay.
I love that.
No matter what it is,
Oh, wow.
it's okay. Right? Like
Perfect.
there are so many things that you're going to go through, and again, life is about the ups and the downs, and find those to love and love them. Love all. Love conquers all. Love is everything. Love is all we are.
Yeah,
Love is all around us. Love surrounds
that's
every
right.
moment, and remember that, attached to that, and be a part of that. And then it will reflect back to you, even when you find it hard to feel love. And hopefully the world will wake up to the consciousness of that feeling. It's an
Hmm.
amazing space, an amazing place. We can all talk to each other in many different ways now, and that's only going to expand to get better. So spread that feeling, spread that energy, and even if you're being tried and you're on, you have the issues surrounding what it is that you're doing, know that might have been placed on you to be able to show your own resilience, to
Yep.
be able to show others that you're capable of overcoming some of the struggles, and do it with love. It's okay.
Wow. It's okay.
It's okay.
How can people reach out to you, Tim?
I've tried to kind of shorten all of my social media stuff to @TimothyThomasLewis. And so at least on Facebook and Instagram and a few other social media networks now, I'm @TimothyThomasLewis. And, I really, as I mentioned before, I had been very camera shy in the previous 4 years, leading up to this change. And now I'm definitely going to be changing that. So I'm going to really be trying to get more things done. I didn't put up. I have a video that I created recently. I didn't put that up on YouTube yet, but I will. It's @TimothyThomasLewis on YouTube.
Okay.
I want to get out there, and I want to be speaking more and doing more things with other people who are doing more things. So hopefully that way. And if they're interested in weight loss peptides like Wegovy, Zepbound, semaglutide, tirzepatide, our website is www.myon, which is AION. And,
Mhm.
we're really looking forward to creating a pathway to education and adherence and support for our own community. So you can check there. And yeah, if you're ever in Berlin, let me know, Nicolette. Happy to show you around the place.
Yes.
And I'll shoot you some recommendations for Los Angeles.
The City of Angels. Tim, what is your handle on Instagram? Because I clicked on it through Podmatch and it says page unavailable.
I changed
So
it, and I didn't change it there.
no
So
wonder.
thank
Okay.
you, thank you.
So,
It should have. I would have thought it would have forwarded. So it's @TimothyThomasLewis now. So
okay. Timothy Thomas
Timothy
Lewis.
Thomas Lewis. Yeah. Trying to
All right.
trying to
Because,
find. You know what I didn't have? I didn't have a unified handle. I've been on the internet long enough, and I should have recognized early on that I should have had one name across the board. I've been on most of these platforms earlier in the
way
instantiation,
longer than
but I
some of us
didn't.
have been.
I was this here and that there. When I grew up on the internet, I was a hacker. I'm a
Oh,
developer and computer engineer. So you didn't
That's
want
one thing you
other people
forgot.
to know. Well, no, you didn't want
Because you,
people to know.
yeah,
You didn't
exactly.
want them to
Because you
know who you
didn't
were.
want people to know. That
Right,
was the
right. So
reason.
that's
Yes.
changed dramatically, and now I put my full first, middle, and last out there for people to find me.
Mwah. Thank you. And there you have it, guys. You heard it from the person himself, Timothy Thomas Lewis. Before we close off, Tim, personally, I'd like to thank you for the work that you're doing for the world and for advancing every step of the way, despite the challenges, creating trails for those that will come after you. For our listeners, this has been that one podcast with that controversial name, You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you find yourself thinking that you are worthless, you're probably not alone. But more importantly, ask yourself a level deeper, if I'm worthless, then why the heck am I here? It is because your soul have chosen to be here energetically, all the way from the ethers, and for that reason itself, you are worthy, you are enough. This has been Timothy Lewis, your guest of the day, and Nick Nieras, your host, signing off. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Nicolette. That was great.